my friends, to the InObscuria. To the InObscuria podcast, a podcast where we exhume obscure rock and punk and metal, and we put them in one of three categories: the lost, the forgotten, or the should-have-beens.
Ronnie James, D.O.G.
has already made his presence known. He is excited tonight.
He's a microphone hog. He just has to have his say. Even before the podcast has started, he's got to start flapping his gums.
I think he knows what we're going to be discussing tonight. I think he's excited.
I see, and just remind the listeners that I have no idea.
Yeah, he was up here earlier. I was doing a little test drive.
Show prep.
I was doing a little test drive.
Okay. Yeah, so y'all worked some things out. Y'all went over some notes together.
And now he's licking his balls.
Yes, well, that's what they do. You would too if you could.
True, and my name is Kevin Williams, and that's Robert Harrison.
On that note,
what's going on with you?
Every episode, I get one more message from a new family member that goes, "Oh yeah, I checked out your podcast." I'm like, "Oh God, oh no, stop, no." So So speaking of family, I am recovering from the bachelor party that was my nephew's bachelor party. 3 days of 10 people in my house.
26 and 22?
Something in like, I can't keep track. I don't know. But they're grown-ass men, 6'2". I can't beat them up anymore, but they're still fun to hang out with. So yeah, they came over. Nephew got married on Saturday, but they showed up on Thursday and started the bachelor party on Thursday. Broke out the hot tub, filled that up, had a good time. So it's 10...
Who did you invite over to enjoy the hot tub?
Oh, I stayed the hell out of it.
Oh, you stayed out of it.
Oh,
okay.
No. It was 10 dudes in the hot tub. It was a dude soup. Yeah, in the hot tub. It was a bachelor party. So there wasn't...
Yeah, the bachelor parties that I go to are a little different.
Yeah, but let me just... They're very good kids for the most part. Drink like fish. But other than that, there were no strippers because I was like, no, not right now.
Not this weekend. I need to take a break.
Yeah, when it's your nephew, it's just like, you kind of want him to have a good time. At the same time, you don't want to have to explain things to your sister that went on. So we had a good time. They played with one of the fire toys like 11:30 at night, and I got a text message from a neighbor going, "What the hell is going on at your house right now? I'm seeing flashes. I'm hearing booms coming from your backyard."
Well, and that's an interesting thing because I don't think most people know this because probably most people have never been around a real flamethrower, but they actually make a loud noise.
Yeah, it's very percussive. So as you pull the trigger, if you hold the trigger on I'm using quotation marks, a flame.
Air quotes that you can't see.
Air quotes. Flame flinger. Let's just call it flame flinger.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you hold the trigger, it just goes psh. But if you pull it very quickly, you get a very loud thump, thump, thump. That kind of sounds like a gunshot or an explosion to the people 2 streets over. Like in the backyard, it's loud, but just like a bass from a car. You hear that 2 streets over. Right. So yeah, they often think, let's see, I've had the cops show up for automatic weapon fire, explosions, and fireballs was one somebody called the cops on us one time. So yeah, this time it was just my neighbor.
So no cops.
No cops. No.
That's
Thankfully, they know me. So he texted me instead of calling the cops. He's just like, "What the hell?"
Cut it out, Robert.
Yeah, so we had a good time. He got married on Saturday, big shindig, and then they finally went home Sunday. Everybody else went home. So my house is a wreck. If you look over, you can see the guitars laying on the floor. Mm-hmm. So if my younger nephew happens to listen to this podcast, Joseph, Uncle Robert doesn't like it when you leave his guitars laying on the floor. Put them back where you found them. Thank you. All right, that was just a public service announcement. I'll text him about that later.
And so what was it like being the ring bearer at your age?
Yeah, I got to throw the rose petals.
Oh, you threw
Oh, yeah. I'm good at making a mess. Yeah, I was at a very nice church. I had to put on a suit. I had to go buy a suit.
I know.
First of all.
You spent some money on a suit.
Let me back up. I had to buy a suit.
And when's the last time you bought a suit?
For your wedding. Mm-hmm. How many years ago?
Almost 20.
Almost 20 years
19
ago.
years. Yeah.
19 years was the last time I bought a suit. And to tell the truth, I pulled the suit out fully prepared to wear that suit again, and the moths had gotten to the pants. There's like 4 big holes in the pants that I still almost wore it, but I thought I could wear black underwear and you wouldn't see it.
Okay, I'm just going to say this, but that is only something that happens to grandparents. Like,
right.
I have never heard of anybody who actually had clothing.
I've not seen a moth in my house. I've never seen a moth in my house. So I don't know what it was, carpenter bees or something. Who knows?
In the 80s, it was like every one of my friends' grandparents, if I would go over to their house, it would smell like mothballs.
Yeah.
Because they'd put those things in their closet.
I don't want that.
You're at that point.
No, I am not. No, take that back. No, don't say that. No, I will let them eat my clothes before I smell like damn mothballs. But yeah, so I bought a new suit and damn, that thing.
You look sharp?
I look good.
Sharp dressed man?
Yeah, I like a boss.
Did you have a little play-in music in your pocket as you were walking?
I didn't even think of that.
You should put a little ZZ on.
I was escorting my mother down the aisle, so I had to go really slow for her. Bless her heart. She's 80-something, so...
80-something.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to say their age. So yeah, we took our time going down the aisle, and she made it just fine. She's a trooper through the whole thing, put up with a lot of nonsense from my sister, and it was good. So anyway, enough about my personal life. Had a good weekend. I'm tired. Ready to talk about music.
Well, all right. Well, after you realize you're geriatric, go listen to Pot of Thunder, Cobras and Fire, Growing Up Rock, Slamfest Podcast, Decibel Geek, A to Z Radio, Metal Up Your Podcast, The Hustle, Disciples of the Watch, Podcast Rock City, State of Amorica, Rock Strikes 10, Potter Than Hell, Podkiss, The Kiss Room, Ages of Rock, Retrozest Podcast, The Synaptic Empire, Monty's Rockcast. Don't forget about him.
No, don't forget about Monty.
Come visit us, InObscuria.com. Like us, share us, recommend us. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have all sorts of shirts and goodies and all sorts of stuff you can go buy. Swag with the InObscuria logo on it. I'll just say it's pretty sweet.
Oh, Kevin doesn't mess around with merch. We always had the best merch of any band out there.
It's good stuff. I'm just saying, you're going to want it. You're going to want to get one for your grandmother.
And somebody will trade you a can of potted meat for your merch. I bet it's that good.
Yep. And if you hang it in Robert's closet, it'll have holes in it.
It'd be holy. Very religious.
Okay. Well, once again, I had to get back to our roots. I went down to the crypt earlier this week.
Yeah. It's got to be chilly down there this time of year.
It is. It is really, really cold down there. And I just sat in the dead silence by myself.
Dead silence. I see what you did there.
Silence. You got that?
Yeah.
And I asked the spirits, I asked my ancestors, I said, speak to me, reveal this week's topic. And I got to tell you, man, my old crate combo amp, which has been stored down in the crypt forever, sitting in the corner, and that thing started to glow blue again.
Ooh.
And I hadn't seen it do that since the 90s.
The tube's going bad?
I don't know. I thought it was solid state. Who knows?
Then you really have a problem.
It started glowing, so I got my phone out, and this is what I captured.
Yeah, that does sound like tubes. Some serious reverb.
Catchy melody.
The Crypt's got great acoustics. Uh-oh. Somebody called the cops. Oh, it's air raid. Tornado.
As George W. would say, I think this is going nuclear.
Nuclear.
I got an apocalyptic vision.
You need to get somebody to check out that crypt. It's got something going on.
And I thought I'd be, safe from all that down there. But
poltergeists.
Man, I knew right away, though, my vision was very clear. And that's why today is episode 114, Shredding the Tomb, Shredageddon.
Yes. That's what I need.
Yes. We are going to talk about the
Shredageddon.
Over-the-top, shred-tastic, shredding guitarist.
People that get paid by the note.
Exactly. And we've done this once before. Actually, we've done it twice because remember, not too long ago, before our Halloween episodes, we did a Shredding the Tomb, but it was about bass. So it was a little different.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah, it counted for me. This one's more your style, though. In episode 65, almost a year ago, we did an episode, Shredding the Tomb, our very first, and it was about guitars and guitar heroes since the dawn of the music that we love. And we covered all genres and just great guitars. We are going to focus today. We're not going to go back to the blues. We're not going to talk about Robert Johnson and all that stuff. We're not going to talk about the 50s with Chuck Berry and Eddie Cochran and Les Paul. And we're not even going to talk about the 60s, really. We're not going to talk about the Claptons and the Hendrix, Pete Townsend, Santana, Zappa, all that stuff. We're going to start more in the 70s because something, or I should say somebody, happened in the late 70s that just got everybody
hot and bothered.
Got them woke. to what shredding was. And of course, I'm talking about Edward Van Halen.
Mm-hmm.
He gave birth to the Shredders. Now, you can argue some others, but let's be honest, that's the guy that everybody tried to be throughout the entire 80s.
Tried and failed for me.
Yeah. And people were still trying to be Eddie.
I got 15 minutes into trying to learn Eruption and went, oh, screw this. I can't even figure out the first intro to it.
So we don't have to go too far. We're just going to jump into the many great shred-worthy guitarists out there since
Van Halen.
That time. Now, I am going to start in the 70s. We're going to go chronologically here.
Yeah.
And I am going to start in the 70s because there were a couple other cats that were, out at the same time as Eddie. You could make the argument that these guys might have a claim to the throne as well, but really nobody will ever top Edward Van Halen. My opinion, your opinion, I assume?
Yes.
When it comes to shredding.
Yes.
So, now before Eddie, there was a guy named Ritchie Blackmore who was, he could sort of be considered a shredder. I mean, he's technically proficient, kind of classical, Mr. Deep Purple, Mr. Rainbow, but I still don't throw him in that category.
No, he has some really, really good leads, excellent guitar player, all the accolades you want to throw at him, but it wasn't the same. I mean, I've gone back and watched videos of concert footage of him all through the years, even like in the past 10 years, and it's just, he's got a style to him, and it's not the same, and I can't exactly verbalize the difference between him and Eddie, but it's just not the same.
He's almost, to me, like a prog rock guitarist in a way,
Yeah.
even though he played rock and roll, he played hard rock, but it was just more of that proficiency with like the instrument, this like a classical.
And he played it like a guitar had been played for a long time,
right?
Whereas Eddie reinvented
Eddie was
it,
doing stuff like Hendrix had done before him, where you'd never heard these sounds before. But all those sounds got adopted. Now there was a couple of other guys from Germany who both spent time in a band called the Scorpions, and they could make a claim as well. And we've talked about Michael Schenker before. He left the Scorpions. His brother Rudolph has always been in the Scorpions. But Michael was in it early on. But when they toured the Scorpions, when they were touring on their first album in the early 70s, they opened for a band called UFO. UK band, and they asked Michael to join them, and for the remainder of the 70s he did all of their classic 70s albums in UFO, and a lot of people say that Schenker was right there with Eddie, but again, he wasn't making those outrageously crazy sounds that everybody was trying to emulate in the 80s.
Guitar theatrics.
Yes, and there was also another guy, so when Michael Schenker left the Scorpions, and I say the Scorpions, I think I'm just supposed to say Scorpions, but apologies.
Yeah.
When Michael Schenker left Scorpions, the guy that came in was named Uli John Roth.
Uli Roth.
And he did 4 studio albums as lead guitarist and the main songwriter and occasional lead singer for the Scorpions. I did it again. You're just going to have to deal with it, people.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Say those Scorpions.
Those Scorpions.
Yeah, technicality.
D Scorpions.
D Scorpion. D's. Who's D's? D Scorpions.
Anyway, I think most people that are fans of Scorpions know them for the 80s output and beyond.
Rock Me Like a Hurricane. And then what else do they do? I don't know.
But I'm telling you, go back to the forgotten classics from the 70s, from 1974 to 77, the stuff with Uli Roth, amazing. And he was a very inventive guitarist as well, although I will say a lot of Hendrix influence in his playing. But he's known as inventing sort of the neoclassical metal guitar along with Blackmore, which your Yngwie Malmsteens and others would take that to new levels in the 80s. So I'm actually going to play some Uli Roth. When he left the Scorpions in 1979, he put out 2 albums under the band name Electric Sun. It was really his solo albums, and then he's done solo since then. He's had 5 additional solo albums, so his last one was in 2015. He's still going. But most people don't know this guy unless they just are big Scorpions enthusiasts who know the 70s stuff, which kicks ass. It's so cool. It's so different, too.
Yeah. Def Leppard is another band just like that. They had that late 70s, really early 80s sound, and then all of a sudden you can hear the shift into more of the pop 80s sound.
Yeah, and a lot of that had to do with the production and who they had as their producer. But Scorpions were a little bit different. They just, with Uli Roth, he was kind of leading the band. I'm not sure if he was older than the other guys or not, but that might be part of it. But his tenure with them is just so different than everything they did afterwards. So let's play a little Uli Roth and Electric Sun from Earthquake, 1979. This is a song called Sundown.
too low. Don't know which beam to go. I'm out to earth, my pains keep growing. Life's golden angels on earth receive this cries and take them for this skies. Search for moonlight, but notice your delight. Then he was free, free to rise. Sundown, 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 sundown.
Album rock. God, you gotta love that. They weren't trying to write radio hit, but starting off a song with your really long lead, it's like, oh yeah, this is going to be good.
In 1979. So,
Yeah.
you know, the argument can be made that he was an awesome, I don't know that he's totally a shredder, but he definitely helped bring that forward with Scorpions in the 70s, transitioning into the 80s.
Yeah, it didn't happen overnight. I mean, they're probably over a couple of albums, but I would call that guitar shredding. I mean, that's right at the borderline, like the lower end of the range, but still within the range.
Yeah. Now, still can't really hold a candle to what Edward was doing.
No.
But now we're going to move into the 80s. So,
Back up. So one thing about Eddie Van Halen is I think anybody knows when you hear it. That's one of the things about him. You can hear his guitar within 5 seconds. You're like, oh, that's Eddie Van Halen playing. And there's a couple other guitars like Hendrix. You're like, okay, that's got to be Hendrix. But, you know, with Yuli, really good guitar player, but I couldn't have picked that out of a lineup.
I might have, if I didn't know it, I might have said that was Hendrix, to be
really?
honest, because he kind of has that feel to a lot of his
I can
stuff.
see that. Yeah, I can see that. Well, not quite as much wah.
Right. Right. Well, now we're going to move into the 80s. We're going to get shred-tastic. Shredageddon has begun. And when you think about the 80s, that's really when the shred guitarists just came out of the woodworks. I don't know where all these guys came from. I mean, it's like they were in their bedrooms in the 70s. They heard Eddie Van Halen and they locked themselves in their rooms probably for 3 years. And then when they emerged, they were almost on the level.
I mean, Randy Rhoads basically said that. He heard Eddie and just practiced 12 hours a day, stayed home from school.
Yep.
And that's all he did.
Yeah, so Randy Rhoads, George Lynch, they were contemporaries to Eddie Van Halen. They were on the scene in Southern California, and yeah, they were like, we got to bring our A game if we're going to be on the strip with, you know, this guy. And then you had your Satriani, who came a little bit later. You had Steve Vai, who emerged originally with Frank Zappa as a prodigy of Frank Zappa. You had Yngwie Malmsteen, right, who showed up from Sweden and just blew everybody away. And then even your thrash bands, think about Metallica. They had Dave Mustaine, who goes on to just create, and he's one of those guys, when he plays, you know it's Dave Mustaine.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a very distinct sound.
And then Kirk Hammett. I mean, some people would argue Kirk's not a shredder. I think
oh
he
God,
is.
no, he's definitely a shredder. I've seen it in person and heard it many times. No, he in my camp, he's definitely a shredder.
Now, the other thing that happened, and some of these guys were involved with this, but in 1980, a guy named Mike Varney founded a label in California called Shrapnel Records. And the whole reason that Mike started that label was it was completely focused on this new shredding phenomenon that was out there. So he just wanted to gather up all these guys that were playing mostly in this Southern California scene and give them the outlet to create albums that didn't even have to have singers. Now, one of the first bands we've talked about was Steeler, which was Ron Keel's band, right? And he got Malmsteen in that band, and that was one of the early Shrapnel artists. But later on, he would have Vinnie Moore and Tony McAlpine, Paul Gilbert, who would later go to Mr. Big, Richie Kotzen, Marty Friedman, and Jason Becker. And we're going to focus on Jason Becker. I think we've talked about him before, but Jason Becker was this really young dude.
Steely Dan, right?
No, that would be Walter.
Oh, Walter Becker.
That was his uncle.
Yeah, Uncle Becker.
But Jason Becker was super young. I think he was 16 or so when he signed with Shrapnel. And they paired him with Marty Friedman, and they put together
We've said before, that's the least rock and roll name of all these other shredder guys.
It is, but my God,
Martin
the man
Friedman.
can play.
Yeah, he backed it up, though.
So they put those two together, and they had a band called Cacophony. And we actually played some Cacophony way back on our 80s time capsules, episode 17. So I'm not going to play Cacophony, but both of them also put out their own solo albums for Shrapnel. Now, Friedman would later go on to join Megadeth in 1990, and then he would play with them for almost 10 years, I believe. And then Jason Becker, he had a very short stint in David Lee Roth's band after Steve Vai. And his tenure with David Lee Roth got cut short. So he was there from 89 to 91. He did A Little Ain't Enough album, but his time got cut short because he had the early onset of ALS.
Oh, damn.
And that's a degenerative disease, which unfortunately rendered him completely unable to play. And later, he was not able to move or speak or really do anything for himself. And that all happened by 1996. So he got ALS when he was in his early 20s.
Wow, that's really early for that to kick in, usually.
Yeah. So by 96, he completely lost the ability to speak. And his dad, this is so cool, his dad thought of this whole concept for using the eye movement, because the only thing he could control were his eyes. And he came up with a software that would allow, by eye movement, him to type and speak through the computer. And this is, 96, so this was breakthrough. And so he actually was able to compose music via this system that his dad developed. And this is how he communicates. This is how he still...
Because it's more of a physical degenerative disease, right? Your mental faculty is still there.
Yeah, he's as sharp as can be. And you're talking about a guy that studied the most amazing classical violin and interpreted it on guitar when he was a kid, when he was 17. So just brilliance, within him. And so he's actually been able to continue to record, I say record, he basically composes. And then he has other guitarists and musicians record, and he releases Jason Becker albums. The last one came out a few years ago, but he's had 6 solo albums after the one I'm going to play. So since ALS, the man's released 6 albums.
That's pretty phenomenal.
Amazing. And there's a great documentary. It's called Jason Becker, Not Dead Yet. It came out in 2012. I recommend find that. If it's not on YouTube, it's on some streaming service. Jason Becker, Not Dead Yet. But I'm going to play from this very first solo album. And man, just be prepared. This is a shred episode. You're about to have your ears shredded. From his album Perpetual Burn, 1988. I think he was 19 years old. This is Mabel's Fatal Fable. You know, I was so impressed watching you write out the tablature to that while you were listening. That was amazing.
I got about 3/4 of the way through, my hand cramped. Excuse me while I put my face back on it, peeled it off. God, wow. Not just the physical skills to be able to move your fingers that fast, but the mental acumen to be able to understand what you're doing. Like, it's one thing to be able to, hey, twiddle your fingers really fast and make some noises, but obviously this guy has such an unbelievably deep understanding of music theory and composition that
at such a young age.
Yeah, far beyond anything I have even remotely grasped ever in my life. Like, what the hell time signatures?
Well, not just that. I think most of that was multi-tracked.
Yeah, he absolutely came back because I was trying to. At first, I was like, "Is that a digital?"
It couldn't have just been
octave?
delay.
No, it wasn't an octave. No,
he was
he double tracked that.
He was maybe even triple tracking that complex stuff with harmonies.
Yeah, and Randy Rhoads is known to have played the solo and then immediately said rewind, do it again, and immediately plays the harmonies. Like, doesn't have to go back and listen or practice. Plays the solo and then went back and harmonized to his own solo instantly. So this guy could probably do the same thing.
Absolutely brilliant musician, and he studied, like I said, he studied classical violin, even though he played guitar. Because you ask anyone in classical music, what is the hardest instrument to play? It's the violin.
Is it your daughter still playing violin?
No, my wife played violin though.
Right.
But no, my daughter plays piano. But it's too bad that his guitar playing career was cut short.
Yeah.
Although he recorded a lot for his young age.
Right.
And thank God they found him.
I'm sure he had more. I mean, even after those albums, what the bands and other things he could have done. So.
Yeah, there's just no telling what he could have done with the guitar. But he's, like I said, he's kept going. He composes. He's released albums.
Yeah.
And he has they do a lot of benefit show for him still because his medical bills obviously are
full-time care
crazy.
For something like that.
Yeah, it's full-time care. He can't, he has a tube for breathing, he has a tube for eating. He doesn't have any muscle control at all.
Yeah, it's full-time care.
Amazing dude. All right, now let's move into a guy that was part of the Michelangelo Battio band on the Shrapnel label. Do you remember that guy?
Michelangelo, no.
You don't remember Michelangelo Battio? He had a guitar. He had 4 necks.
Oh, that guy. That guy. I never remember his name, but I remember that guy.
He had hair out to here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was in the band called Nitro, but originally he had his own band and he was on Shrapnel.
Yeah, Nitro, I remember.
Yeah, Nitro. Yeah, well, the guy we're about to talk about was in his band, and then he decided to go solo under his stage name. I'm not making this up. This was his stage name. Guy Man Dude.
It was the 80s. Guy Man Dude. Guy Man Dude.
Now, why do I know who Guy Man Dude is? I'm going to tell you. Because in 1989, there was a horror movie called Shocker. It was a Wes Craven film. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. But it was a Wes Craven film, so everybody went to see it because he did Nightmare on Elm Street. And it had an amazing metal soundtrack. And on this soundtrack was a supergroup that this guy was in. And the supergroup on the soundtrack, the one song, was called The Dudes of Wrath. That was the name of the band. And it featured Desmond Child on vocals, Vivian Campbell, who's in Dio, Whitesnake, and now Def Leppard, on guitar, Rudy Sarzo on bass guitar, who was in Ozzy and Whitesnake and Quiet Riot, Tommy Lee on drums from Motley Crue, the Tommy Lee, boner and all, Guy Man Dude on lead guitar, and singing in this band, The Dudes of Wrath, was this guy named Paul Stanley, who was in the band Kiss. There's your Kiss connection with the K. Exactly.
That's good. Right on cue.
Right on cue.
Okay, now you shut up. No,
right.
Sit it back down.
Calm it down. So that's how I know about this guy. And he put out an album the same year, so that of course I got it because I'm an idiot. But it's a shred guitar album. But what I found out about this dude was his real name is Guy Schiffman, and he was an accomplished drummer for years. And he was actually the drummer for John Anderson, who's the singer of Yes.
Oh, yeah.
When John Anderson went out and did some solo stuff in the 80s, this guy was his drummer. So he's obviously a really accomplished drummer as well. But he decided to move into his love of guitar in the early 80s, joined Michelangelo Battio's band, and then became Guy Man Dude, which was short-lived, obviously. He released 2 shred albums, 89 and 91, and then he moved to Eastern Europe to pursue jazz.
Of course, because that's what you do.
That's what, well...
When you've tackled this, you tackled that, what else? Jazz.
When you're Guy Man Dude in the 80s and then grunge comes in, you probably should move to
Just take
Eastern
a break.
Europe.
Take a break.
Yeah. But I have to play Guy Man Dude on this episode because this is a song called Shredding It Down.
Hell yeah. trying to sound like Randy Rhoads a little bit there? Or is that just
I love the fact that he had to have a big finish where he played a bunch of notes. Like, dude, you just been doing that for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like the big finish was after the other finishes. And it always amazes me because the songs that I wrote were very linear, verse, chorus, verse, stuff like that. Not very proggy, but like the very first time he comes into the room, like, all right, guys, here's my song. It goes, and then you're going to go, and then you do this thing, and then we're going to go back to, and then like, how do you write all that down?
I don't know.
Or how do you remember it? I mean, once you've played it a few times, these guys are amazing. I'm sure they could pick up on it, but still, there's got to be some weirdness. No. This part is where I go diddly diddly do, and then not diddly diddly do.
He's on fire tonight.
I apologize. Yeah, that's
wow.
He is just, I don't know. He's
going on?
He's with me all day. We were riding around all day long.
He's wanting to grab onto that leg again. Yeah, so if you were to look up shred guitar from the 80s, that's pretty much what you're going to get.
God.
That was, to me, you heard Randy Rhoads, I heard Vinnie Vincent.
Well, it's just that one little riff that he had at the very end.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was very young in the 80s. I don't remember a lot about it. Was 80s a time of excess?
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Been.
Okay, that's what I remember.
Guy Man Dude.
God almighty. Jeez, I'm sweaty just listening to that.
That's just one song. You should listen to the whole album.
Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry.
I was trying to dance, but it was coming across kind of like Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Seinfeld.
Very interpretive dance.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Had some odd breaks in that song.
Well, yeah, it's very jarring. The first one was much better.
All right. So as we moved into the 90s, a lot of the shred kind of went away for the most part with mainstream music, at least. I mean, you had some amazing players like Dimebag Darrell and Pantera. He was still ripping.
And that's another one that's very distinctive sound. You can pick him out of a crowd.
And this is not going to go down well with a lot of people, but
that's what we're here for.
Never did much for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Dimebag?
Not a big fan. Here's the thing.
Usually I get the hate mail. This time,
here's the thing. I like most of the music, not all of it.
Yeah.
I like most of the music. I was a thrash guy. I was totally into thrash, but something about his tone, I just don't like it. It just rubs me the wrong way.
EQ and just moved everything down.
I don't know.
Tune it down.
I don't know what it was, but I didn't like it. Zach Wilde,
Dive Bomb Darrell.
He's
good at that.
Zach Wilde, Mr. Pinch Harmonic. He was big in the 90s. You know,
you don't. Are you saying you don't?
No. I'm saying this is another guy that continued.
I was about to come across the bar.
No,
because you're getting blasphemy.
No. I dig Zach.
Okay, yeah, the pinch harmonics because he does it he does it so well. It's over the top, but that's what I like about it. And once again,
and he didn't dial it back in the 90s. He just kept going.
He just. Dear Lord, let Ozzy live just long enough. They can get this album out with Zach Wilde back on with Ozzy.
Just one more.
Just one more. I just want one more. Thank you.
All right. Another guy who was not exactly a shredder, but just a killer guitarist in the 90s when there weren't that many playing incredible leads, Jerry Cantrell. I mean,
oh God, yeah. He was hiding a lot of it.
Yeah,
like during the Alice in Chains days,
you knew he could.
He could because we saw a video of him as a hair band musician, so you knew he had the ability to shred. But the fact that he was just holding back made him even better.
But the one guy that immediately sprang to mind in the 90s, and if you are into progressive metal at all, the 90s Dream Theater ruled the 90s, and John Petrucci. Oh my God, another amazing shredder who had some very tasteful licks, but for the most part, he was a shredder.
Yeah.
And Dream Theater's progressive output, is just incredible. All the guys in the band are just amazing. But
they're not good at dialing it back.
Yeah, they don't dial it back. They don't know how. What I'm going to play is in 1997, after the fourth Dream Theater album, Mike Varney, who we talked about, who started Shrapnel in the 80s, he started a new label in the 90s called Magna Carta Records. And it was all about promoting this new progressive metal scene. So there's all these progressive metal groups who were basically reinterpreting Genesis, but with a lot of metal.
A lot of balls.
So he pulls aside Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater, who was the drummer, no longer the drummer in the band, but he was for a long time. And Dream Theater was sort of his gig. It was sort of his band in a way. He was kind of the spokesman. But Mike Varney said, hey, put together a band, while you guys are in between albums, and we'll just do like this really cool instrumental thing. You just do whatever you want. You got carte blanche. And so he recruited Tony Levin, who was the bass player in King Crimson in the 80s, just amazing guy. He plays that Chapman stick, that weird looking instrument, and he's a bass player, just amazing. He played for Peter Gabriel. And then he also got Jordan Rudess, who's an amazing keyboard player who at that time was leaving the Dixie Dregs.
Okay.
Another great progressive band from the 70s, 80s. And this is how Jordan got the gig in Dream Theater, because after this, he joined Dream Theater, and he's still there today.
And are there two different versions of Dream Theater?
No, there's only one Dream Theater.
I think, what's the other one I'm thinking of? Oh, Queensryche, sorry.
there were two versions of Queensryche.
I knew that because we saw they opened.
Yeah, there was the Jeff Tate version, and then there was the non-Jeff Tate version.
Right. Okay,
all
sorry.
the other
I was
guys.
getting that mixed up.
Yeah. No, there's only one version of Dream Theater, but Mike Portnoy would leave in the 2000, whatever year, 2012-ish, somewhere around there. Anyway, we're talking about this band that he's putting together. He could not find the right guitarist. And I read somewhere that his wife said, dude, you're in a band with the best guitarist in the world. And he was like, oh yeah, I'll just get John to do it. So you have two guys from Dream Theater, Jordan Rudess and Tony Levin. They put this band together called the Liquid Tension Experiment. And they put out 2 albums in the 90s on Magna Carta. And then just last year, they put out their 3rd album. They've had a long hiatus, but they put out another one.
During COVID?
I guess, yeah, it was a COVID deal. So anyway, I just thought if we're going to play a shredder from the 90s, I don't think there's a better shredder from the 90s than John Petrucci. So here's Liquid Tension Experiment from their 2nd album, just called Liquid Tension Experiment 2, 1999. This is a song called Acid Rain.
That was every bit as show-offy as the others, but that was very melodic and easy to listen to. Still had a rough time signature at the beginning that makes it impossible to bob your head to, or, just at least figure out where the hell they are. But I loved, strangely enough, the piano with the double kick and everything else. It just, there was a weird juxtaposition of just something as simple as a piano in the middle of this wild and crazy song. So I appreciate that. Thank you for including that.
And that got Jordan the gig in Dream Theater.
Did it?
Well, not this album, but the album before, the first one. But they just mesh really well.
Yeah, you can tell.
He's still there to this day. And my understanding is that these Liquid Tension Experiment albums were basically them going in with nothing other than just, let's get in a room and jam.
Yeah.
And this is what came out.
Probably took them all of 16 minutes to come up with something like this. These guys are amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know how much of that was improv. I have a feeling the entire middle section is all improv.
Yeah. They had a tiny bit of structure to the chords. And then after that, it was just, they were pointing at each other. Like,
you do your solo, and then we'll go to that.
Yeah, we'll go
turn around.
Solo. Yeah, turn around. Then it's me, and then you again. Okay, cool. And then we'll go out for beer.
Yeah, absolutely mind-melting stuff.
I would have pulled a hamstring trying to...
They represented the 90s well as far as shred guitar. And the interesting thing is all of the Satrianis, the Vais, all those guys kept going in the 90s too. They were still releasing their solo albums. It just wasn't to the same mainstream attention that they had in the 80s. But then
it was clubs instead of arenas.
Yeah, but then as we got into the 2000s, some of that started to come back around again. One of the things that nu metal did for the mainstream market was it kind of brought heavy back, where people were like, oh, I forgot about metal, And so actually there were these tours in the 2000s called the G3, I think they were called. And it was Satriani, Vai, sometimes Eric Johnson, sometimes John Petrucci, sometimes Malmsteen. But they were like these shred fests, basically, where they would just get together and have three guys go out there and then they'd do a big jam at the end. And they were pretty successful, I think. But as we got into the 2000s, I was trying to think who is, other than the old guard that was still there from the 80s and 90s, who was kind of continuing to push forward. And the first thing I thought of, and I don't know if you remember this band, but there was a band called Dragon Force that came on the scene. It was a UK band. Do you remember this band?
God, vaguely.
They were
like a retro.
They were a power metal.
That's what I think.
And they actually had a hit or two that was played on the radio, even though it was just this crazy over the top power metal.
Yeah,
kind of like the Darkness. Where they had something that was like it was retro sounding, but for some reason it just hit.
Yeah,
for a minute, and they had these crazy guitars that were crazy fast to the point where you almost can't decipher the notes. That's how fast it was. They're still around. In fact, that's where Skid Row's current singer, he came from that band. He was in Dragon Force. So that's where ZP came from. Anyway, other bands I thought of, there was the whole power metal scene kind of exploded in the 2000s. So you had all of these bands doing that sort of Maiden, Priest, epic sort of sounding music that was big in Europe. It just didn't really come over to our shores over here. But, of course, I have all of it. And then there was a thing called Gent, which kind of came into being, which is these bands that played, and they call it Gent because, like, Meshuggah's one of the bands I can think of that plays Gent. But it's kind of math rock, but it's like real heavy, and they call it Gent because it sounds like Gent. Anyway, it's like this crazy palm muted stuff, and all these guys play 7-string guitars, which was the guitar that Vai created, was the 7-string guitar, the Gem. Anyway, that was 2000s, and then the other thing I thought of was, that's when this crazy blues shredder stepped onto the scene, this young kid. His name was Joe Bonamassa.
Yes.
So in the early 2000s is when we first heard of Joe Bonamassa.
13 years old.
Amazing player. And then the guy I'm going to play, who we've talked about before. He's been in a bunch of different bands and behind the scenes of a bunch, but it's a guy named John Lowry, better known as John 5.
Yes.
So we talked about him in our Old in the 90s episode. That was 110, where he was the other half of Rob Halford's industrial band 2. It was John 5 who kind of helped compose all that stuff. And that was kind of his scene. He was a shredder, and he had shred albums on his own, but he was in those types of bands in the late 90s and early 2000s. He started off, he was in David Lee Roth's band for the DLR Band album, which if you've never heard that, it came out in the late 90s, so it got no exposure whatsoever.
No, I didn't.
Amazing album, though.
Late 90s, I was not thinking about David Lee Roth.
Yeah, you weren't thinking about David Lee Roth,
Yeah.
but that's an excellent album. So he was in Roth's band from 98 to 2003. He was also in Marilyn Manson from 98 to 2004. He did double duty, and then he was also
going
playing...
from David Lee Roth to Marilyn Manson. Talk about just a complete...
Yeah, but he's kind of known for that
polar
industrial, you know...
I mean, they're both complete showmen, but at the same time.
Yeah, and then he left Manson's band. So I would say he was in Manson's band during the kind of best years of Marilyn Manson. He leaves Manson's band and joins Rob Zombie, and he's been in Rob Zombie's band since 2005. He's still there. He's the dude.
Much as a weirdo.
Just amazing player. Now, he doesn't get to shred, except in concert he does. But, you know, on the albums, he's not really shredding
it's more
on those
industrial.
albums.
They keep it pretty tame.
Yeah, but he's got 9 solo guitar albums, and his style is just all over the map. He's very versatile. He can do all sorts of things. Great composer as well. So I'm going to play from his 2010 album, even though we're talking about the 2000s. The album is called The Art of Malice, and the song I'm going to play is kind of a little twangy, but it's cool. It's called...
Twangy?
A little twangy. It's a twangy shred.
Oh.
And this is called You Dig.
You
like that. Yeah, that was a little twangy.
A little something
swinging
to it. Yeah, it reminded me of, I don't know if you remember the single there was actually a single that Joe Satriani released in the 80s.
I was just about to say this.
Satch Boogie.
Very much remind me of Joe Satriani, because he would start with a theme and then take some branches off from the theme and then come back to the theme, and it was very more melodic. Once again, it was shredding, no question about it, but it's very melodic. I love that's more my wheelhouse that I'll listen to, which is why I like Joe Satriani and never listened to Yngwie Malmsteen very much, because it couldn't keep my attention very long. Except when it was live.
Except that
night.
That
was just a spectacle.
That was
We've
amazing.
said that many times. That word is just perfect for him.
We should have done this episode probably right after we saw Malmsteen.
Yeah, we had a mouthful of Malmsteen. Ass full of Malmsteen, whatever the quantity
whatever
is.
that was he was doing.
Whatever he was doing, he does it well.
He can still go down on that one leg, man, at his age. It's pretty awesome.
Took him a little longer to get back up. But yeah.
Woo. John 5, man. He's an incredible player. All right. So I was thinking, okay, as we got out of the 2000s into the 20 teens and beyond, who has really stepped up? Because here again, you still have a lot of these. The Vi's just put out a new album. Satriani's still out there. You still got all these guys doing their thing.
And you mentioned nu metal earlier, and even though I despise or dislike most of nu metal, whatever you want to put in that genre, a lot of those bands have a really good guitar player.
Yeah,
I hate the tone, and I hate
sometimes
what they're doing
it was more
with it.
Percussive.
Yeah, but still, a lot of those bands have some really talented guitar players, but none of them stand out from the crowd like some of these shredders we're talking about.
Yeah, so I was thinking, okay, well, who's left? And then it kind of dawned on me, oh, well, duh. Well, coming out of the 2000s was the dawn of everybody being on YouTube and posting on YouTube. So, I mean, today, it's basically just go type in 7-year-old shredder and you'll probably pull up like 150 new videos that were posted yesterday of some kid.
All of them upside the head.
It's just... You can go on YouTube and go down a rabbit hole for days looking at these talented bedroom musicians who are shredding now.
They got the headphones, they got a camera, and they're famous.
Yeah, and a lot of them you never see. All you see is the guitar on the video.
Yeah,
but there's a ton of great guitar stuff.
Other than Joe Bonamassa, how many of these kids have gone on to do anything?
Well, that's what I was trying to think of. Like outside of that, because that's kind of become the norm now. If you're an amazing musician, you have a YouTube channel,
right? And that's it, though. I mean, as far as going on to make lots of music with a band, you never hear them touring. Once again, Joe Bonamassa, the only one I can think of as far as these child prodigies.
Well, I thought of another one, and the one I was thinking of is somebody that we've actually seen, and she is inspiring. She's amazing, and I'm talking about the current touring lead guitarist for the Alice Cooper band.
Yes,
Nita Strauss.
Yeah, I got a little crush on her.
My God, the woman can play the guitar.
Yes.
And she's been ranked several times on Guitar World's list of female guitar players. Here you go again. You got to put them in a category, right?
They can't just be a guitar player.
No, she's just a badass in general.
Yes. Do you see the video footage of him smacking her in the head accidentally with his cane?
No.
He was waving around. And like, she's such a professional that he turned and just completely smacked her in the head with a cane. And like, it stunned her just half a second, but she just kept playing.
She's a bodybuilder too, so she could
kick his ass, but still,
she could take it.
It was funny to see him like, sorry.
So her beginnings are kind of interesting. She was, and some people know this, but she began in L.A. She was in a band called the Iron Maidens, which was a tribute band, and they're still around, but she was one of the original guitarists. She played Mega Murray, because they all had pseudonyms for the Maiden guys. And she played from 2011 to 2015 in that group. So that's kind of how she got her start. And then in 2014, here's a second moment we're about to share. In 2014, she was the official in-house guitarist for the Los Angeles Kiss.
Sorry, you snuck up on me with that one. I was not prepared for that.
Yeah, so in the early 2010s, Kiss actually, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley co-owned an arena football team, and it was the LA Kiss. And they didn't last very long, but it was one of their endeavors for a bit. And Nita was the house guitarist.
In-house guitarist.
She was like the music in between things going on, and she did the national anthem and all that stuff, ripping it out on guitar. So she had that going for her. And she's put out one solo album, and I'm going to play from that solo album. It came out in 2018. Absolutely amazing. It's in line with all these guitar greats we've been talking about. Name of the album is Controlled Chaos, and I'm going to play a song called The Quest, because the very first song that I ever wrote for my band Minor Earth was also an instrumental called The Quest.
Really?
And
I did not know this trivia.
Yes, and you know what? It sounded nothing like this.
All right, it might be an unpopular opinion, but I get tired of the double kick every once in a while. Just
Oh, I hear you.
I want to
it's
hear
overused.
I want to hear the guitar, and it's
Yeah,
just
it's overused.
Everything in the past 8 or 9 years, maybe that's all that you hear on the recording, and I just want to hear the guitar. Sorry,
Yeah, you can actually dial it back a little bit.
Yeah,
It's all right.
Yeah, put it in there, but not the entire damn song. Yeah. So anyway, that was amazing. Of course,
Amazing Nita.
skills, amazing skills.
Even better if you have the video, in my opinion.
Yes, do some research. Do yourself a favor.
My God.
Look that up.
Attractive woman.
Yes.
And a bodybuilder. Like
Easy
we
on
said.
the eyes. Easy on the eyes.
I mean, just
A handsome woman.
yeah, like the movie Heavy Metal we've brought up before. Yeah,
yeah.
she could be the lead character.
A human embodiment of the anime character. Yes.
All right. So we talked about Jason Becker in song number 2, and we played something that he did when he was 19, when he was still able to play guitar. I mentioned that he's continued on composing. So we are going to play for our last song, a composition by Jason Becker. And this came out in his most recent album called Triumphant Hearts in 2018. And again, he composed this using his eyes, a software system that interprets his eye movements to type and to put notes.
I mean, just that is amazing.
To
but
put
the fact
notes
that
on
he's using it to compose
measures.
Yeah,
Amazing.
not just letters.
Yeah, and all the instruments. And so what he did, this is going to blow your mind. In 2016, he launched a campaign to fund this album, and the campaign raised more than he needed for it. And so he thought, what better way to pay homage to the guitar than to put together a group called the Magnificent 13. And we are about to play a song called Valley of Fire that features the Magnificent 13
Oh, what a great name
of
for
guitar.
Valley of Fire.
Of guitar shredders.
You
So
have my attention.
hold on a second.
Okay, check your notes. He's flipping through little notebook, yellow pad. We get cheat sheet. Was that a set list? Was this a test? Oh my, there's no test in this podcast.
All right, so I have a sheet for you, and in front of you, you see a list of 19 guitarists. Now, I mentioned this is the Magnificent 13, so some of these guys get to play a couple times.
Can we pause so I can go get my glasses?
Yeah, you can go get your glasses if you want. There are 19 guitar solos from the masters on this list. I'll just read them off for the folks listening here. So we have Michael Lee Firkins, who he has the very first intro guitar, and he was one of those shrapnel guys with Jason Becker back in the day. Steve Vai, I think you know who that is. Joe Bonamassa, Paul Gilbert, who again was with Mr. Big and Racer X, as well as just being one of those shredder dudes. Neil Sean from Journey.
Ben Woods, you skipped him.
Oh, yes.
Who's
Ben
that?
Woods. Well, I have him later on my list here.
Oh, okay.
But I'm actually not
Yeah,
as...
you got him twice.
I'm
You got
not.
him at
Yeah,
5 and
he
7.
has 2 bits in here. I'm not as familiar with him. Matthias Eklund, who I also wasn't familiar with. He's from a band called Freak Kitchen. You have Marty Friedman. You have Greg Howes in there twice. He's one of those shrapnel dudes too. Jeff Loomis, who was in the band Arch Enemy, which is like that really, really heavy band that one of the guys is in Night Flight Orchestra.
Oh, that's right. Their real job.
Yeah. Richie Kotzen, who was another shrapnel guy. He was, been in tons of other bands. Gus G., who was Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist when he had a different guitarist other than Zach. And Steve Hunter, who we played on our very first Shredding the Tomb. He was the dual threat that used to play for Alice Cooper and Lou Reed with Dick Wagner. So you got Steve Hunter in here as well, who's one of my favorite guitarists of all time. Ben Woods, I'm not sure who he is, to be honest. Was not as familiar with him. But
Some guy walked in off the street. Hey, what you doing?
he can play. So
Join in.
But anyway, this is what we have. And so what I thought we'd do is...
Who was Outro Mix?
well,
I've never heard of them.
There are so many quick little things at the end of this song that I couldn't pick it all
Okay,
out.
because that's number 19. I didn't know if that was like Dude Man Bro.
Yeah. No, it's not Guy Man Dude.
Bro Man Dude?
It's not Guy Man Dude.
Guy Man Dude.
But anyway, so what we're going to do is, because there are 19 different guitar exchanges in this song alone, I thought we would rank the solos using the Hot Pepper Scoville Heat Unit. So we're going to measure how spicy these leads are.
Okay, we're gonna number one, we got to turn the lights up because they're very dim.
All right.
I may have to go get my glasses.
Go get
We'll
your
see.
glasses.
All right.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to rank the hottest lead in the song with the Carolina Reaper, which is 200 times hotter than a jalapeno.
Which I've never experienced. Have you?
I can't imagine.
No.
I can't imagine what that's like.
No,
because I thought the ghost pepper was the one. This far exceeds the
Oh,
ghost
you've
pepper.
had the ghost pepper?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's bad.
I've
is
had
real
nothing worse than a jalapeno, and those kick my ass.
All right.
I'm such a white boy.
The second ranking is the Trinidad Moruga Scorpion, which is 2 million Scoville units. So it's just a little bit, not quite as hot as the Carolina Reaper. Then we're going to go to the Ghost Pepper, which is 1 million Scoville heat units. And then the jalapeno.
Yeah, that's my jam right there.
6,000 Scoville.
That's a little much for me,
So-
but half of one I can.
So these are, in other words, all of these leads are hot. Some are hotter than others. So we're going to rank
Off
them
the charts, though.
based on Scoville heat unit.
All right.
Now, the reason I know where all these breaks are is there is a video for this song. So I'm going to play the video, and I'm going to give you the high sign when the next guy is
Yeah,
playing.
thank you, because they kind of blend together sometimes.
Right. This video has had over 1.8 million views on YouTube, which is pretty impressive. Yeah, why don't you want to go get your glasses, or are you good?
Let me just turn the lights on a little bit.
All right.
We've never had a question and answer session or anything like this. This is new ground for us. I feel like I have to pay attention now. There'll be a quiz at the end of the podcast. Oh, crap. I got to pay attention.
So we'll just compare our notes at the end and see who we thought was the hottest
Right,
lead.
let me hide mine. I don't want you to see it here. We're putting...
We can have multiples, too. It's not like you have to have one of each, right?
I'm putting Lemmy between us. You can't see my answer.
All right. It's like Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Double Jeopardy. Yeah.
All right, I'm ready. Michael E. Firkins. A.
All right, so if you're playing along at home, you're going to want to hit play on YouTube. Cue it up for Valley of Fire, Jason Becker, and hit play in 3, 2, 1. right.
That was interesting.
It's like a spaghetti western for guitar slingers.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, a whole bunch of guys in a room, and it wasn't like one of these, what am I thinking of? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremonies where there's 20 guitar players playing at the same time. That usually doesn't turn out, with the one exception of, God, what was that? When Prince just completely outshined,
obliterated
yeah,
everyone.
I don't know, whatever ceremony that was, birthday
Yeah, I know
or
what
something.
you're talking about. I can't remember if was it his or was it somebody else?
No, it was something. It was just one of these things where they're all there to pay tribute to somebody, and I'll find out as soon as the show's over. But he walks out,
And they all just stop. Like,
they just,
you got it. You got
was
it,
it
Prince.
Tom Petty kind of looked at him, gave him the side eye or something like that, and he just puts on a show. So, real quick side before we get into this, Prince, guitar shredder,
Absolutely.
good,
absolutely.
okay, settle that. So
Not,
this
not
is
included
cool.
here, although we probably could find something.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's going to be a version 3.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you have any on your list that you just thought were jalapenos? They were just so-so.
Yeah,
Okay. Who'd you
lot.
have? You had a lot. Okay.
a lot.
Wow.
I was grading them pretty hard.
Wow, you were hard on these masters of their
in real
instrument.
life, I can't handle the heat, but when it comes to guitar solos, you better bring it.
Okay, well, let's, how about Michael Lee Firkins? Where'd you give him?
It was a jalapeno.
I gave him a jalapeno as
Yeah,
well.
it was not so. But you know what?
It was just the intro, really.
You got to warm up.
He was just-
that was expected.
He was just introducing what was to come.
But then Stevie Vai, same thing.
You gave him a jalapeno.
I get it. It was still kind of, for what Stevie can do, he was holding back. He was sandbagging.
Wow, I gave him a scorpion.
He knew. Oh,
I liked that one a lot.
he knew he was coming back later.
Okay.
So he turned it up later.
Yeah. Okay, how about Jobo? Joe
I
Bonamassa.
gave that the the second one. Yeah, the
Scorpion?
Yeah, the second one up because I liked his tone. He's very bluesy, and that's what I normally hear from him. But he's a little bit of a nasty tone there. I like that.
Yeah, when he hits it, for me, when he hits it, he hits it.
Yeah.
And this was one of his leads.
I
It just
like
hits
it.
it. I gave him a Reaper.
Yeah,
I gave him a Carolina Reaper.
I may change that, but yeah, I like his bluesy stuff, but it doesn't do anything for me. But when he gets down and dirty, I'm like, okay, now we're talking because he still has a blues sensibility to it.
That's what gets me. Is
It's not just
because you
noodly.
can still feel it.
Yeah,
you can
it's
still feel a
it's
little bit of that blues in
good
there.
vibe. All right, so then Paul. Okay, so Paul and Ben couldn't. If you hadn't have told me there was a transition between them,
I know, right?
it was one guitar player. So, but they both got a scorpion on that.
Oh wow. Okay. See, I gave Ben Woods a jalapeno because I thought he sounded too much like Paul Gilbert.
Valid point. Yes, valid point.
But I gave Paul Gilbert a scorpion as well.
Okay,
Dude can just play. He's just good.
And then Neil,
Neil Sean, our journey guy.
but I gave him a jalapeno.
You gave him a
He
jalapeno.
was holding back. He went for style instead of notes.
I felt like he did what Neil Sean does. He had all the melody up front in his lead, and then he ripped it at the end. And so I give him a scorpion.
Okay, I was
opinion.
ready for more for him, so I know what he's capable of,
And then Ben Woods jumps back in.
and gets a good jalapeno.
Oh, I gave him a ghost pepper.
See, I was rough on these guys.
You were. I gave him a ghost pepper.
Okay.
Give him
Ghost
one
pepper.
step. One step up from his jalapeno
Okay.
before.
Matthias,
Matthias,
he gets the ghost. No wait, I can't read the damn.
the Carolina Reaper.
What's the one above jalapeno? I can't read it.
Oh, the one above a jalapeno is the ghost pepper.
Ghost pepper. Yeah, I gave him a ghost pepper. That's what I thought it was said.
See, this is where I feel like we just had 3 guitarists for me that just slay it. His, I don't know him, but what he played was so different from everyone else, and it was just unique. I gave him a Carolina Reaper.
Well,
I
you
thought
know
he
what?
killed it.
I wrote some notes, so I made notes.
Oh, you have notes
I
too?
have notes, yeah.
Damn.
So I think I'm going to bump up his score because the intro, when he kicks it in, that got my attention. Where the other transitions were kind of mild transitions, he jumped into that lead and just like, oh, you have my attention. So yeah, I'll bump it up one more.
Okay, so you're giving him what, a scorpion?
Yeah, second from the top, scorpion.
Okay, all right. So I gave him a Reaper. And then we go into Marty Friedman, who I'm just a huge Marty Friedman guy. I gave him a Reaper. The guy can do no wrong.
Actually, that was the one I had strong intro.
Strong intro.
Yeah, I wrote it in the wrong one.
Oh, you wrote on the wrong one.
Yeah, but his Marty Friedman was one that I was thinking of.
So what does Marty get in your book?
Same thing, Reaper.
A Reaper. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And then
And just spoiler alert, nobody got a ghost for me.
nobody got ghost
No,
pepper.
it's-
Well, are you saying the right thing? The ghost pepper is the
hottest.
no, the hottest is the Carolina Reaper.
I'm getting mixed up.
You're messing up my scoring
I'm
here.
messing up your scoring. Sorry.
All right, so
That's what I do.
you gave no one a
Screw
Carolina
everything
Reaper.
up. No, I gave nobody a Carolina Reaper.
Wow.
And I only got two
Two scorpions.
and
Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Dude, you were
5
hard on
ghost
these
peppers.
guys.
A lot of jalapenos.
You
in
were
this
hard
mix.
on these guys.
A lot of just good nacho cheese dip in this.
So
one.
I've got a Reaper on Matthias, and then we go into Marty Friedman's. I
Yeah.
got another Reaper, and
Yeah.
then my breakout star of this whole song to me is Greg Howe. The guy just slayed me. I gave him a Reaper as well.
I had notes on it. Greg Howe's very old school compared to a lot of the newly guys. Style.
Yeah.
He had style.
Yeah, I just loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. All right, Jeff Loomis, who was the arch enemy guy. This is where it got a little heavy.
Yeah, same thing. I wrote bam because he just came in and just like they dropped the volume down, they dropped the not tempo, but just the vibe down. All of a sudden, then they bring this guy in, just kick everybody's ass.
I gave him a Ghost Pepper. What'd you give him?
I gave him the Reaper.
Oh, you gave him the Reaper, the highest one?
No, not damn it.
Why do you keep doing that?
I don't know why I keep doing it. I look at the wrong place on the map.
Ghost Pepper's number
so
2.
you know, font is very important in my life. You use the absolute smallest font, and every time I look up at it, I read the wrong thing. Yeah, so the Ghost.
You gave him a Ghost Pepper as well. Okay, Richie Kotzen.
He gotta go.
Okay, I gave him a Scorpion. I like Richie's playing. This wasn't the best Richie for me, but it's still burning.
It was just really chill. He like kind of brought it down.
Yeah. And then we move into Gus G, who does this whole
acoustic stuff.
Acoustic thing. Didn't do a lot for me. It was all right.
Yeah, I give him a Ghost.
Okay, I did too. All right, so we got a Ghost Pepper. And then one of my favorite guitarists of all time, Mr. Steve Hunter.
Very mellow lead.
Yeah, brought the blues.
Yeah, he got a jalapeno, but it was nice.
Oh my God, I gave him a Reaper.
Well, it wasn't because I hated it. It was just the feel. It felt more like a jalapeno.
Okay, and then we start getting the turnaround where we get a couple of these guys again. So Neil Sean comes back.
I got a question mark about it. What the hell, man? Come on. He was holding back. He got a jalapeno.
Yeah, I give him a jalapeno as well.
Yeah.
Greg Howell comes back. I think again he kills it, so I give him a Reaper.
Well, the transition from Greg to Steve. So I love how Greg laid it down a little bit, has some style, and then Steve Vai just comes and kicks down the door again. So I love that transition between the chill and the heavier stuff.
So what did you give those two guys?
Greg got a jalapeno and jalapeno. And then Steve got a good Ghost.
Wow. Man, you were hard on these guys. See, this is where Steve Vai for me stepped it up, so I gave him a Reaper on this one.
But then once again, from Steve to Paul, couldn't tell it was two different guitar players.
Yeah.
It blended perfectly, whether they were trying to, I don't know.
Yeah, Paul slipped down a notch for me on this one as well.
Yeah.
I gave him a Ghost Pepper. And then the outro mix, there's so many guitars playing.
Mr. Mix sounded really good.
Mr. Mix, yeah. I gave it a Scorpion.
Yeah. I'll throw in one Carolina Reaper for the outro. Just say I did.
Wow, hard, man.
I'm just in the mood, man.
If we were Olympic judges,
we
man,
just listened to a good hour and such of really good shredding guitarists, and some of these guys were like sandbagging. They need do some more blow before they show up.
What? Well, it's not the 80s anymore, my friend. These guys are older men now. They
have
can't do that kind of
mocha
stuff.
latte.
That's probably
Cappuccino.
more their speed.
Yeah.
Whew. Well, is your brain fried
In
with all this
a good way.
amazing dexterity, flexibility,
Things that I never could even get close to. Not even
knowledge
the same
of
zip code.
knowledge of notes that I could never understand?
No, it just did. That's all I could tell you.
Oh, I think we need to get out of here. I think I need to just listen to something really dumb on my way home. On my drive home, I'm just going to put on the dumbest
That'll be
music I can
easy.
find.
That'll be pretty easy.
Yeah, and listen to my own stuff. That'd
Yes,
work.
we could do that.
All right, man. Well, that's what I got for you. A little
Awesome.
shred-tastic Shredageddon.
Go have some more of my dinner.
All right. Until next time, people.
See ya.
Later.